Good evening, everybody. My name is Christina Schifitto, and this evening I will be presenting to you my grammar lesson plan on the present perfect tense with time words for and since. The lesson plan I've developed is for an intermediate class, and the assumption is that in prior classes the students have already been introduced to the present perfect tense. So I've introduced the form, meaning, and use with a context that centers on a person describing a travel experience. And the reason I've chosen that is because I think the idea of sharing an experience tied to travel is one that most of our students can appreciate or relate to. So the warm-up is relatable, as most people can recall having a friend or relative depart for a trip and then describe their experience using for and since. So this context presents use of the grammar point in a way that's interesting by going over a made-up fictional experience that I've produced about Robert and Marie who have traveled to France for an extended vacation. So the presentation method involves using visual timeline to convey the time points, as well as putting the form in a chart along with sentences that make the form very clear. And this occurs after several examples are shown with the form applied correctly. A discussion follows to help identify the form, differentiate when to use for and since, as well as to understand the form's meaning. So when I consider the learning outcomes, what I'm hoping to achieve is that the students will be able to identify the use of for and since in the present perfect by participating in a drill. As well, they're to hopefully fill in the blank sentences using the correct form of for and since. And in the less controlled practice, which won't be demonstrated as part of my presentation, they would be able to describe personal experiences using for and since in the present perfect. So I've tried a bit of an inductive approach, but I believe there's instances of deductive teaching throughout as well. And I look forward to hearing some of the feedback that you have of the presentation that I've prepared for your viewing this evening. Hi everybody, how are you doing today? Welcome to class this evening. How's your day been? Pretty busy, I hear. Are you looking forward to the end of our semester? It's definitely fast approaching. What do you think, Zion? Yeah, I see your head nodding there. So something that's kind of exciting to think about is that just in a few weeks we're going to be on holiday break. So what this means for many of us is that maybe some of us are going to be traveling, or maybe we have family members that will be traveling. Just by show of hands, how many of you are going to be traveling over the holiday break? I see, that's exciting. I'm actually not going to be traveling, I'll be here. But that's exciting for you all that you get to go maybe back home. Any interesting places that you'll be going to see? I see, that's great. It's nice if we can get somewhere warm as well as we approach winter time, right? But something that's kind of exciting to think about is travel experiences for today's discussion. Oftentimes when you have a family member who, let's say they're leaving us here in Canada to maybe go back home, or they're going on a destination trip of some sort. Once they get to their destination, maybe something that we might do is phone them to make sure that they got there safe, right? Do you find that's the case when you're speaking with your family? So when we do that, we phone our family, our friends who've just left for a trip. They have all sorts of things to share with us, don't they? Can you, as a class, maybe brainstorm some ideas, some things that maybe they want to share with you when you phone them to see how they're doing? What do you think? I'm just going to jot some of these ideas on the board. So Zion, go ahead. Thank you. So Zion's explained that maybe they've taken 3 connecting flights to get to their destination, right? So they might say something like, I've taken 3 connecting flights since Saturday. Okay, good start. Thank you. Sometimes our relatives complain about the airplane food, right? They might say something like, I haven't had anything to eat since yesterday. Great. So thanks very much for your ideas. What we see here is that we often need to use time words when expressing information about a travel experience. So we're going to learn a little bit more about that in today's discussion. So today we're going to talk about how we use words to describe time. So when we speak, we can use words to say how long something lasted in a period of time that has a beginning and an end. And this is shown in our first sentence here. Robert has traveled through France for 9 days. Or we can use other words to describe time, as we see here in our second example, where we're shown when a specific event has occurred. It has a start time. So Robert has toured France since July 15th. So this timeline chart here will be very helpful in helping us understand these two different sentences, because we have an instance here where we're describing a period of time that has a beginning and an end, which is shown here. Or in sentence number 2, we're talking about the start of something that has occurred. So on the board, I'm going to display some sentences about my friends Robert and Marie, who are in France on an extended vacation. So let's imagine that I've called them while they're on vacation to see how they're doing. So we'll discuss Robert's summer vacation now and see how we can describe his experience as it continues up to the present time. And when we look at these sentences, these are some of the things that are described. So the first one, I have traveled through France for 9 days. Marie and I have visited Nice since July 21st. We have toured the French Riviera for 3 days. Marie is tired because we've waited in the line at the Eiffel Tower since 7 o'clock. The sky is gray and it has rained since lunchtime. So let's look at the structure of these sentences that I've created. What words have we used to describe how long something lasted or when something began, the beginning of that event? Okay, Winnie, what word do you find important in these sentences? For. Exactly. Well done. That's correct. Are there any other important words? Zion. Since. This is right. For and since are both used to describe how long something lasted or when it began. Let's take a little bit of a closer look at the form and the rules for using these two time words, for and since. I've got these displayed on the screen here. Notice the rule, since followed by when something began or the start time. So in our first sentence, we have Robert and Marie have toured France since July 1st. So we have a helpful tip here, because you'll notice it says, remember, since and start both begin with an S. So if we go back to our timeline, which we introduced at the beginning, since represents a particular point in time when something began. Since and start both begin with an S. So I'm going to hand out one of these time charts to everyone, and maybe you can add that. Here you go, Winnie. Thank you. Please take one and pass it to everybody. But maybe you can add start to that chart, and that'll be a good reminder for when we use that word. So together as a class, let's identify the starting point of action in each of these sentences at the front here. So let's begin with that first one. Robert and Marie have toured France since July 1st. What's the starting point of action? Winnie? Yes, it's July 1st. July 1st is correct. Let's try the second one. It is the first time Robert has returned to France since last winter. So where's the starting point of action in that sentence? Ray? Last winter's correct. That's right. So that's the starting point of action in that second sentence. How about this third one? They have visited the Eiffel Tower, which has been open to the public since 1889. Zion? Yes, 1889. That is that specific starting point of action. Great. And Marie has known Robert since they were in high school. Winnie? Yes, high school is correct. So in all of these sentences here, we see the use of that time word since, because it's followed by a specific point of action. So thank you for your answers there. So if we take the fourth sentence, Marie has known Robert since they were in high school, we use since with the present perfect. So we're looking back from the present moment now to see the time that something began. So when did Marie and Robert meet? Yes, Winnie, you're right. Yes, in high school. And when are we speaking about this? Yes, that's correct, Zion. Now. It's now that we're speaking about this. So do Marie and Robert still know each other now? Ray, that's correct. Yes, they do. So the starting point of this action has consequences now. So we can also use this word since with other tenses, but we will learn more about that one on another day. Let's consider the next three sentences where we're going to look at the use of the word for in describing a duration of time. So this is the rule we see here in the form, for plus the duration of something, how long it lasted. Okay, so let's look at the first sentence. Marie has toured the wine region for 2 weeks. Firstly, does everyone know what wine region means? I see a couple heads nodding. Winnie, you're not sure? Okay. Zion, maybe you can describe to the class what wine region means. Good. So yeah, as Zion said, it's like a farm where they grow grapes, and that's made into wine. So we call those vineyards, and when we have several vineyards together, we can call that area a region where they're making wine. So these are often common in France. So Marie has toured this area, this wine region, for 2 weeks. So that was a good question. So when we look at this tour, did that have a beginning? Yes, that's right, Zion, it did. And did it have an end? That's right, Winnie, it did. So we're talking about a duration of time. It had a beginning and an end. When we look at the second sentence, they have stayed at the same hotel for a month. What's the duration of time that we're indicating in that sentence? Zion? A month. Correct, that's right. And the last sentence, they have toured the Louvre Museum for 3 hours. Ray? Yes, that's right. 3 hours. So these highlighted words in red indicate that duration of time and how long something lasted. So do we have any more questions about the form and rules of using for and since? Okay, good. So far, so good. Did everyone add the word start and highlight S on their handout with the timeline? Good. Okay. So we're going to continue and do some practice using for and since with a drill. So well done, everyone. I can see that many of you are starting to understand a little bit more how we can use the word for and since when describing these different words. So let's continue with our practice on using for and since. And what we're going to do is practice using these two time words in sentences. So I've handed out this form
this sheet to everybody. So why don't we take a minute now to learn a little bit more about Marie and Robert's lives. Notice that there are blank spaces. Can you please choose either for or since to fill in the blanks in the sentences below? Why don't we do number one together? So we can see here it says Marie has lived in the same city since 1992. Can someone please tell me why we've used the word since in this sentence? Yes, Diane, because it's stating 1992, which is when the event started. That's correct. Excellent. So now I would like everyone to take a minute to continue filling in their sentences, and then we will take it up as a class. So what are we doing again? Winnie? That's correct, Winnie. We're using for or since, and we're putting it in the blank spaces of those sentences. Good job. Okay, we'll take it up as a class in just about 5 minutes. Thank you.